What I want to talk about is I had posted an experiment that my wife and I ran for our arcade business, and what we did is we were seeing some insane uh, checkout abandonment rates. We had a stretch where we went two sales on 48 visits. Now, traditionally, we are hitting about 30% of the people who go in, so we would have normally had about anywhere from 12 to maybe 18 sales on a given stretch, but for some reason they were just bouncing. So we tried different things. We were using a discount code. We put the discount code literally above where we put the discount code. That didn't work. We reiterated the offer, like here's all the things you get. That didn't work. We reiterated the ads, the landing page. None of that worked. Then my wife just decides she's looking at it. She goes, what if we just make the price and just ditch the discount code? And I'm like, at this point, hey, let's just try it. What the hell they got to lose? And so in this video, I want to talk about friction and when you should avoid it and when you should use it. Now, friction is just making things harder for a customer to acquire the thing that they're after. And that sounds like it's a bad thing all the time, but it's actually in certain scenarios, it's good. Now, in the case of the arcade thing, what we did is I took my wife's advice, as a good husband should, and ditched the discount code. And the conversion rates in the checkout went from about 2.8% to 31%. A bad day now is like 20%, which is still acceptable. We're still making money doing that. And I've seen this a lot. There's an account that I'm working with that has a very bizarre checkout, but it still works because there's no weird, there's no there's nothing you can forget in there. When you use discount codes, we can have a separate argument about discounting. That's a whole separate video. But when you put discount codes, the one thing that you're running a risk of is people actually forgetting to do it. And you'd say, who would forget to put a discount code in, especially if they're saving hundreds of dollars? You'd be very surprised. A lot of times we were running one for a lower ticket item, and these guys were forgetting all the time. Like 80% of the time they weren't putting them in there. So when you want to use a discount code is if you believe that the act of putting that code in there or adding friction, so now you're adding an extra step that they have to do, is a good thing, then you have to really measure that against not doing it and see what works better. That's one area where friction, I think, hurt our actual ability to close sales. Another friction issue that you might want to avoid is having too many steps in your checkout, like having too many pages. I like to just have one nice clean page where they can just almost autofill everything in. Credit card information, name, email address, shipping addresses, and all that stuff. Those are fine. You're okay doing that type of friction. Or avoiding that friction. You want to, avoid that friction. My bad. But here's some instances where you do want to add friction. For example, if you take the historical example of Studio 57. Studio 57 was notoriously hard to get into. And you'd sit there and go, why would you make it hard for people to come in and spend money at your club? It's because for a few reasons. One, they wanted to make sure they got the kind of people in there they wanted to get in there that weren't going to cause problems, start fights, that kind of thing. But also it gave it this kind of air of mystique and privilege and exclusivity that they could charge higher rates for things like getting into the club, drinks, food, whatever it was. That's an example of where friction helps. Like another example you'll see often, especially here in South Florida, is golf clubs. Like they'll charge, part of the friction they have is, you'll pay a monthly membership, but then they have you pay an initiation fee. And the initiation fee is just doing paperwork. I mean, that's it. That's all they're doing. But what it does is it prevents people that they may not want at the club. And unfortunately, there's some nefarious things about that, depending on your point of view. But here, in terms of marketing and advertising, here's some instances where I think putting friction up is actually a good thing. If you're doing lead gen, and if you followed any of my videos or posts on LinkedIn, I've done a few of these about the leads suck, right? You get people in and they are not qualified, they don't pay attention, which there's not a whole lot you can do. except you can make it harder for them to accomplish the end goal. So what I do is I ask more questions. And I ask questions seeking information I need to get or want to get, but you can just simply ask more questions. You can put more layers on it. You can make them go through a quiz, a survey, whatever you want to do. That's if you're doing lead gen, I would actually encourage you to do that, even if you're not even calling these people and you're just doing like emails, because if you get one qualified lead on your email list, it's going to probably be better than 10 other schmucks that just, you know, and didn't pay attention to what you were offering, right? So here's the thing that here's the way that I go about it when I determine what types of friction I want to put on. Okay. The first thing I want to do is if I'm doing e-com, if it's straight to sale, there's no qualification, any of that stuff, I try to reduce as much friction as I can. The one thing I will use as a friction leverage point, however, is my pricing. I will raise my prices as a friction point because, what I found is when we sell our products, if I can kind of tell if someone might be a problem customer because they're really itchy to get their stuff super fast. The ones that are great customers understand that, like what we build are hand built. So they're like, it's kind of cool that it takes a little bit of time because they know that something, is being produced by actual human hands, in this country. But pricing is a great way if you're doing e-com to raise friction if you're trying to get certain types of customers, which is not uncommon. Okay. If that's not a concern, then pricing just needs to be used so you can guarantee yourself to make a profit that you want to make. Okay. However, if you're doing lead gen, I would strongly suggest you use more friction. The reason is that you just want to deal with the people, because especially if you're getting on calls with people or you have to make proposals or any of that stuff, that can be time consuming. And you want to make sure that your time is well spent with people who can actually benefit from what you offer and are willing to pay for what you offer and happily will do so. So to kind of round this video out, when you look at your funnels, so let's recap it this way. E-com, I would look at reducing friction unless you're trying to get a specific type of customer, and then use your pricing as your friction point. Okay. Higher price. All right. If you're using lead gen, I would go the opposite way and I would create more friction to get better quality leads. Is it a guarantee that you will get every lead that'll be amazing? No, of course not. However, it will pretty much guarantee that more of them will be better quality. And you'll waste less time. And actually what will end up happening in my experience is you'll end up getting a faster time to close, which actually makes those leads in the long run cheaper because it doesn't take as many of them to close a deal. All right. So if you're following me on LinkedIn, I appreciate you. I love having those conversations with you. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you agree, disagree. That's okay. I love the banter. I love the back and forth. I like being challenged on my ideas. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and do the same thing. Leave a comment and say, let me know what you think, if you agree, disagree. But as always, your dear leader will see you in the very next video.